Alright, folks. So, this will be chapter 5, and disclaimer is yep, right here. Zoom in, wait for 3 seconds, now freaking move. Yep, back to the main picture of of the section 2 of Gathering of Soldiers, part 1, and chapter 5 The Executioner's Blade. Commander Proteus suddenly noticed Lord Pericles reading a book while seated on a long bench outside of a tavern. Yo, Pericles, what are you reading? He then sat next to Lord Pericles. Lord Pericles glanced at him, but just went back to reading. Commander Proteus gazed at the book and chuckled. Ah, it's one of those military strategy books, huh? Good writings there. Really good writings. I mean, great writings. They've been written, revised, and scrutinized by many great emperors in the past. Silence resumed and it continued for a long while until Lord Pericles suddenly closed the book very fast. Hey Proteus, we need to gather all the executives right now, because we're going to hold a meeting in another tavern where none of our guys are present. Commander Proteus chuckled. You got it. That's my man Pericles. But what are we going to discuss? Lord Pericles shrugged. Just some potential changes to the fortress that I have in mind. Commander Proteus slowly nodded. Okay, then let's go. Therefore, Lord Pericles and Commander Proteus went about looking for all executives for the meeting. Soon, they brought them along and sat around in a big circle around the table in the tavern to start the meeting. The servers had placed drinks and appetizers and the executives started eating. Lord Pericles chuckled. Let us not get so distracted by the food and instead focus on the meeting at hand. He then drank some wine. Commander Kairos chuckled. Hey, I thought you said not to get distracted by the food. Silence. I had to quench my thirst. Lord Pericles drank another gulp and put the cup down. He then passed the book to the middle of the table. Anyways, after reading this military strategy book, I've come to a conclusion that we've been handling the fortress quite differently from how our predecessors of Romans have done for centuries. He breathed deep and thought about how to say his thoughts. And based on previous mind-boggling events and our guys' rash behaviors, I have no other choice than to remove some of the restrictions of the fortress. So first, we'll start with the topic of having servants in the fortress. I feel like that it's time to allow it. So, what do you guys think? Commander Kairos brightened up. Hey, that's the first time in ages that you've said something good. Lord Pericles sighed. Kairos, you get the last say in this thing. Just calm down for now and be quiet. Commander Kairos chuckled. Come on, Pericles. You know that you like my support. Lord Pericles simply shook his head and waited for other executives to speak out their thoughts. Commander Takis grabbed the book and gazed at it. So, you're finally adhering to our staff members' suggestions? Lord Pericles flinched but quickly shook his head. Nope, that's something else. They didn't convince me. I learned it from the book, because all they have stated was their yearnings and the soldiers' requests. They didn't try hard enough to bring forth good reasons. However, this book had everything, all the reasons required to convince me, so I was convinced by this, not them. Commander Takis shrugged. Whatever you say, I still agree with you. It wouldn't be bad to try out new things once in a while. He then handed the book to Commander Lucas to see. Commander Lucas flipped some pages in it and took a quick look, including the covers. Where did you get this? We don't carry books like this in the ships. Do we? Commander Lefter's gasped. Yeah, we usually have funny books and lovers' books. The ones that strike right at the lonely soldiers' hearts and give them a good laughter and filling up empty hearts of their souls during the lazy and boring days of ship sailing. Lord Pericles scratched his head. I brought it from the fortress. Commander Lucas frowned. Come on, Pericles, be serious. Your reasoning doesn't make sense. Why would you intentionally bring that book with you on a raiding campaign to not read it until just right before this meeting, and then get yourself convinced by it? There are just a great many loose ends here, Pericles, so explain yourself, please. Soon, other executives started chuckling. Telemon chuckled. Yeah, that's funny. Zopiros tapped on the table hard many times as he laughed. Gosh, Lucas, you've never cornered big guy Pericles so hard like this before. Commander Lapidus chuckled. Indeed, just look at his face. It's so priceless. Chuckling went on for some time until suddenly Lord Pericles slammed on the table. Shut up, Lucas. How dare you try to shift the conversation away from our main topic? We were initially talking about allowing servants in the fortress or not, and you just had to turn our attention away from it. So focus and let's start discussing. Commander Kairos smiled. Oh yeah, that's right. Come now, guys, let's talk about servants. He then turned to look at Lord Pericles. You have my approval in this. It'll help us easily control brutish ones that we have in our fortress, because their hearts will melt easily upon having some beautiful servant woman, and they become very obedient as long as such pleasures continue. By then, other executives became focused, or confused. Telamon and Zopiros looked very lost for a while. Then they looked at each other to notice if the other understood, and Commander Lapidos tapped on the table numerous times with his fingers to think, while Commander Lefteris drank some wine and sighed. But soon all of them managed to just get by and let the interrogation of Lord Pericles slide for now. Commander Lapidos and Commander Lefteris nodded their approval. I agree, but Commander Lucas sighed. I would like to know how many servants you wish to have in the fortress. That's a good question. I would like to have between the number of our soldiers and twice its number, so that makes it between 200 to 400. So 300 would be a good number, Lord Pericles said. So you put fortress keepers in your count as well, huh? Commander Lucas said. Lord Pericles nodded. That's correct. No matter what they say, they're still our soldiers too. Commander Takis raised his hand. It sounds good to have diversity in the fortress, but how are we going to feed them all? And is there going to be enough water for all of us? Lord Pericles seemed lost. Suddenly, Commander Kairos' finger slapped. And that's a crucial statement. But don't worry, I was thinking about it ever since we had that last water shortage. Why not have Adam the Slacker and many other slacking fortress keepers bring extra water to us every Monday? What do you mean by that? Commander Taki said. You know, there is lots of water to spare in Constantinopolis, and there is lots of time to spare for Adam and many of the fortress keepers. So let's set them as watermen for us. Get them to take some ships in Prinkipo, load lots of barrels full of fresh water from cisterns in Constantinopolis or nearby streams, and bring them back to Prinkipo so that not only soldiers but also the civilians could use them as well, Commander Kairos said. Telamon nodded at Commander Kairos. Oh, that's a good idea. Hey, Kairos, you've finally speak something brilliant after ages of speaking gibberish. Commander Kairos smiled. Telamon, it's nice of you to compliment me, but you should watch out on what you say afterwards. Telamon smiled. Yeah, I watched it over very, very well so that it gets to you nicely. Hey, Telamon, you seem really nice on the outside, but you do tend to get very nasty with your mouth, you know that? Commander Kairos said, still smiling. Yeah, of course I know. That's just my trait as a diplomat. But really, you're nasty all over yourself even though you don't even have the skills to become a diplomat, Telamon said, still smiling. Commander Kairos started breathing heavily, and he tried hard to continue smiling. Don't you think you're pushing some levers right now? I have some of my own, which could get you really riled up. Telamon smiled even more. Ah, do try it, because I want to see you finally trying for once in your life. In an instant, a cold chill ran down Telamon's back. Suddenly, Commander Proteus slammed on the table. Gosh, seriously, we had Pericles and Locust fights previously, so now it's you too? Pay attention now, or else this meeting will drag on forever. Commander Kairos chuckled. Geez, Proteus, you need to calm down. Can't your buddies have some quality conversation with one another? We haven't had the time to really talk to each other in months already. In his mind, Telamon sighed in relief. Somehow that cold chill was gone. Yeah, Proteus, Pericles gathered us here to talk, so we need to use this occasion wisely, and not let it be filled with just fortress topics, since those are too boring. Looking extremely frustrated, Lord Pericles slowly tapped on the table numerous times to regain the attention. But suddenly, the servers showed up to put food on the table. When they left, Lord Pericles sighed in severe frustration. Anyways, Kairos, that's a great idea. So now we can have Adam finally pull his own weight. Hopefully that lazy oaf agrees to do it. Commander Lucas raised his hand. But, hold up. Will it be safe to trust Adam on that task which puts the lives of more than 1,000 people under his charge? Lord Pericles shrugged. Yeah, I think it's safe. The guy does what's ordered as long as it's important. Yeah, but he has a lame history of frequently forgetting to get messages delivered to various people, Commander Lucas said. Lord Pericles frowned. Whatever, let me think about that later. Let's just start eating for now. Then they all lifted up their wine cups in the air. Cheers! Cheers to the Principal Fortress! Cheers to our good future! After that, they all started eating. Lord Pericles bit off a chunk of bread and munched on it. By the way, Adam has never forgotten to deliver the urgent messages, so this means he knows the importance and acts along with it, making sure the important ones are done. And as to the not so important ones, he gets cocky and knows that we have no replacements over him. So he often just lets those tasks sit there at our harbor for weeks and even months. Commander Lefteris tapped on a dish with his fork. Wait, I've never heard of this version of Adam before. So, according to you, he's not just some regular irresponsible drunkard of Contascalion? Lord Pericles chuckled. No, of course not. If he was that kind of drunkard, then I would have fired him a long ago. He sighed as he thought. That guy is actually very popular amongst the drunks in our fortress. They often visit him at the Contascalion to have some conversation and receive some advice. He's like an older brother to them, very caring too. So making him a chief waterman will be very fitting to him. The task will allow him to routinely see his buddies and bring people, and promote cohesiveness between him and the fortress keepers. And since we have pretty much ended our reliance on hiring notes, he doesn't have to be stationed at that harbor anymore. Commander Kairos frowned. Hey, it seems to me like you took over my idea as if it was yours all along. Lord Pericles sounded in confidence. Yeah, I once thought about that too. It's just that I forgot about it due to the passage of time. Yeah, right, in your dreams, Commander Kairos scoffed. Lord Pericles chuckled. Wow, I like it. We're having great progress right now. So, we all agreed on having servants and getting Adam and some fortress keepers to deliver water to us every Monday. Therefore, I would like to. Commander Lucas cleared his throat. Not so fast, Pericles. How are we going to house all those servants in our fortress? But first, how are we going to obtain that many servants? Where? When? And who's going to have control over them? Lord Pericles chuckled uncomfortably. Well, those are quite many questions. He started fiddling with his hands in anxiety. Commander Lapidus raised his hand. Why not have our own guys get them from their homelands? Give them the whole wage term of vacation, then pay them like a third of the wages to save money for the buildings that we may have to build in the future to house the servants. Lord Pericles groaned. No, that's not going to be enough. You're talking about building a structure. That's a huge feat to accomplish. Zopyrus tapped on the table. Hey, Pericles, why don't we do that? Lord Pericles flinched. What do you mean, that? What's that? Explain yourself. A wicked smile formed across Zopyrus' face. You know, the money raids. I just thought about it. Because recent months and perhaps recent years have been rather peaceful for the guys while we were struggling to keep pace with the extreme spending budget we have. Lord Pericles smirked and slowly nodded. Commander Kairos chuckled. Oh yeah, you're right. I wonder how long we missed out on doing that. Do you know when was the last time we did it? Zopiro smiled and shrugged. Don't know. And all I could say is that it's been very long. Just too long. In fact, the borrowers may have forgotten about it too. Commander Lucas grimaced. Yeah, I remember now. No one's been paying these days at the armory. We get them to write down their names with the price of the things they have taken out to use, but hardly any of them end up paying, not even little by little. Zopiros gasped. Then, there are the ones who have died, and we usually give back all their stored money to their family members. And if you're thinking about trying to get such money back from the parents who just lost their kids, you must be out of your mind. He then slowly looked at Lord Pericles. But Pericles, I think we really need to do the money raise at least. Not only to take back what is ours, but also to discipline everyone. Lord Pericles was grabbing his hair in frustration by the time Zopirus looked at him. Do I look like I need you to answer that for me? Gosh, I never knew that things would go out of our hands like this. Commander Kairos chuckled. Yeah, and you just had to make that announcement at the ship, asking the guys to buy more armor when they still have yet to pay for the ones they're currently wearing. Lord Pericles sighed. Just shut it, Kairos. You're not helping me here. Commander Lucas shrugged. Don't worry, this is not the biggest problem. In fact, it's actually simple to fix. All we need to do is look at those scrolls which have their names and amount to pay up. Then have fortress keepers extort them. Then we could have our heavy melee guys extort the fortress keepers at some other time. But what I'm worrying about is if that money will be enough for the construction projects that we'll have, Lord Pericles said. Didn't we make loads of money from selling the raided goods and captives? Commander Lapido said. No, Lapidos. Even though we made a lot from selling the captives, we didn't even sell all the raided goods. The Venetian merchants bought up all the captives since the slave trade is very lucrative these days. But after that, they didn't feel like spending anymore, Lord Pericles said. Commander Lapidos frowned. What? Those wealthy bastards, screw them. It seems they only want the dibs on the most profitable goods. Telamon nodded. Yeah, they're not dumb, you know. But we still have some hope, because some of them recommended Famagusta for potential buyers. They said that the merchants there will bring us more wealth due to them being richer. Commander Lapidos frowned again. Then we should have gone there to sell. That could have been the right choice. But we still made the best of what we have. Many of the merchants here have plans in shipping merchandise and slaves to Alexandria in the coming days, so our timing couldn't have been more perfect to fetch more loot, Telamon said. Zopiros nodded. Yes, it's the desperation of the buyers and lack of supply that ultimately raises the prices of goods. Lord Pericles sighed. Yeah, as you guys may have noticed, we were the only group of traders who had captives to sell, so we did what we can here, and enough talk about what could have, and should have, and would have. And what I have in mind next is having wives in the fortress. Soon, silence fell amongst them for a long while. They all just simply ate in silence and waited for someone to talk. Suddenly, Commander Lefter's chuckled. Well, I'm very certain that we all have someone in our minds, and are ready to bring them to the fortress. Commander Lapidos chuckled. Yeah, that's right. But it won't be fair for soldiers if only we are able to have them in the fortress. Don't you think so, Pericles? You're right. So, what do you suggest we do then? Do we let everyone have them and cause extreme chaos in the fortress? Lord Pericles said. Commander Lapidos shook his head. No, of course not. We should let captains, officers, and old ones have wives, while everyone else is still forbidden. What age should we choose? Lord Pericles said. Why not choose 30? By then, we men just want to settle down and live on. So those guys will be easier to control if they're allowed to live with their wives, Commander Laputo said. Lord Pericles looked around at other executives. I really like Laputo's suggestion, but are there any objections to that? They all nodded or muttered out their approvals. Lord Pericles spread out his arms. Guys, don't be so hesitant in speaking up regarding more changes. Today, right here is the free field for all of us in which we are entitled to make suggestions and talk about them. Then we pass such legislation as we see fit. So, it's our chance to push forth as many changes as possible to help improve our fortress for the good of all. Understood? The executives nodded. Commander Takis cut. If you state it like that, then I have something in mind. The animals in the enclosure have been quite a burden and a distraction for our guys lately. They care for those animals so much that they fail to train themselves up to those standards. Then they sell some of those for profit. Then they fight over them and hurt each other. And it's such a nuisance for everyone else watching. So I would like for us to take out everything and sell them. Commander Kairos gasped. No, we shall not do that. Those animals are our joy during our hard days, and they inspire us to live on whenever we feel really down. So how can you even speak about such a thing? Sell all of them? No, not happening under my watch. Lord Pericles chuckled. I like that idea too, Takis. Commander Kairos grunted. No, Pericles, don't you dare listen to his suggestion. Lord Pericles sighed. But, Takis, we don't need to be too hasty. We currently lack a clear and viable reason to get our soldiers to comply in getting the animals out of our fortress. So, until we have such a reason, we shouldn't infringe upon the agreements that we have already made with them long before. Commander Takis grimaced. Can we just say that the Emperor requested them? Lord Pericles shook his head. No, that's still not a good enough reason. Come on, dude, our guys aren't dumb. They could see through our tricks like glass. Telamon smiled. Oh my, so there was something that bothers you, huh? After all those years of trying to mask yourself into portraying that nothing bothers you. Shut your mouth, Telamon. You're annoying, Commander Takis said. No, I won't. This is like my only time to see you guys as true humans. So I won't lose any bit of time like this, Telamon said. Commander Lefteris tapped on Telamon. What do you mean by seeing us as true humans? Telamon smirked. Save for Kairos, you guys don't really show your true selves when your underlings are around. So meetings like this are like the only times when you all let yourselves out and speak whatever's in your minds. And I like that. And what about Kairos? Why did you leave him out? Commander Lefteris said. Telamon slowly looked at Commander Kairos. I could tell you right now, but I'll tell you later, because he's been too riled up during this meeting. Honestly, he was kind of riled up even before this meeting started. Come on, guys, let's focus on the topic at hand. Commander Lucas wrote something into his paper. Hey, I think I know a good reason for getting the livestock out. Next year, when the tenants come to work at the Eastern Farmland, we could hand over cattle to them for free, but in return for half their produce at the harvest seasons for several years. That would be a good reason to get cattle out. Then, with time passing by, the tenants may want to raise pigs and chickens too for the manure. So that'll be the nail in the coffin for our guys to give up on having livestock in the fortress. We could easily tell them that cooperation is necessary and they'll have to give up. We'll worry about compensation when that time comes. Lord Pericles chuckled. A great idea. We'll go with that. Man, we're racking up a great many changes today. Oh, and do you guys remember talking about the breakwater zones in our harbor? Commander Lucas said. Commander Lapido shrugged. Yeah, but why do you ask? I was wondering why you guys are setting up the stone quarry all the way down south on our island. Why there? There are stones nearby too, Commander Lucas said. They remained silent for a while. Lord Pericles cleared his throat. People live around those regions, so it's recommended that we set up the stone quarry away from the population zones, because they'll surely complain once they start hearing the noise. Commander Lucas nodded in understanding. Commander Lefteris chuckled. Yeah, and that gave us a good reason to make our guys set up the running track. Zopiro smiled. Indeed, because running around the fortress had gotten old. But don't you feel that we should add another course which runs along the eastern coast to Carius village? Commander Proteus said. What do you guys think? Lord Pericles said. Others generally agreed. They wanted to see more changes as well. Then they went on talking more about the potential changes for the fortress and ended the meeting when everything was written down and set to go into effect once they got back. Alright, so that was the end of chapter 5.